either an accident that perhaps involving another car which they couldn't control, in light of the fact that the roads had been searched so thoroughly and no signs of such accident have been found. We feel that foul play must be indicated.
Well, I think it might be a possibility that they're somewhere on the old scenic route. As I understand it, they purchased gas at Cascade Locks, and it seems logical that they would take the scenic route home, and they might be somewhere in that area.
I haven't the faintest idea. It's a mystery to all of us here.
Well, I still think that it must be a deep canyon or a river. That I hope, whatever it was, that it was a rapid accident.
What's your personal opinion of what happened to the Ken Martin family?
Well, if I knew that, I would be the most popular man in the sheriff's office, but I don't know. Several possibilities. It's accident, most likely, and either underwater or the car went down and over the grade under trees where it can't be seen, or of course there's a possibility of foul play. But we feel that if there had been foul play, that the car would likely show up, which hasn't been showing up yet. We just don't know. All we can do is just keep looking, trying.
And his type of a driver would indicate certainly that he is within a 60 or 70 mile radius of Portland, and possibly, since he was in the Cascade Locks area, that he should be up in there in the Columbia River someplace.
Well, the only thing, knowing Ken and how cautious he was, how careful he was, and his knowledge of the woods, I'm certainly that he could have found his way out if they got lost or anything like that. I just can't help but to believe that he's in the river or down a canyon, that they still haven't discovered it. I think that he's trapped in the car and the family is with him.
I think there are 5 possibilities as to what has happened to the Martin family. I think the first possibility is that they are in deep water. That's my guess. The second one is that they are in a deep canyon. The third possibility is that they have gone away of their own free will. The fourth possibility is that they have been murdered, and the fifth, that they are being held captive. It has to come in those 5 categories. We have had suggestions from all over the United States, and we have built a voluminous file of correspondence in the Martin case. This shows some of the hundreds of letters that we have answered with respect to suggestions that we've had in this case.
Good evening. Richard Ross reporting on one of the strangest stories to come across any newsman's desk in recent years. The story, of course, the disappearance of the Ken Martin family. And strange because with all of the investigation in search of a full month, it still leaves unanswered the question, where are the Martins?
School frequently, because I teach the same school where they attend. And I saw my sister-in-law at the funeral of a family friend on the day before they disappeared.
At that time, was there any conversation at all about this intended trip on the 7th?
No.
Is it the habit of the Martin family to get Christmas greens at this early season?
Yes, they decorated the outside of their house with lights, and that's probably what they would have been going for.
Probably just for greens and not a tree.
I would imagine so.
Was there any conversation at all in your a visit with them on Thanksgiving that might indicate any personal conflict in the family?
Oh, no.
You would say that they are a closely knit family?
Oh, yes, a very happy family.
And they love the outdoors?
Yes, spent a great deal of time outdoors.
Did Mrs. Martin take part in the hikes?
She was not able to hike it for any great distance of recent months.
Why was that?
She had a leg condition that would have kept her from hiking.
You would assume then that on their trip they would keep pretty much to well-traveled roads?
Yes, I'm sure they would, unless the girls and their father went into the woods a little farther.
When they say they went up the highway, what does that mean?
To me, that would mean Highway 30 up the river. it could to them have meant some other road.
Would it be possible, have they in the past gone up the Highway 30 in this instance, and then crossed over to the Washington side?
I don't know that they ever did that.
They attended the local church, took part of local functions in the area?
Yes.
What were some of the activities that they worked together on?
My brother is a Mason, and the girls were active in Bethel, and they attended many functions at Friendship Lodge. He is a Toastmaster, and she was a Toastmistress. The younger child sang in the church choir, and the parents and the family always attended when she was performing. They were active in PTA at Rose City Park School. Barbara had been a past president of the PTA there. And probably their chief interest was in the Trails Club, and their summer vacations were always spent on Trails Club camping trips. And they had worked many weekends this past summer and fall at the addition to the Trails Club cabin, which is being built near government camp.
What have you and your own family done to check the house to find out any information you might give to the law enforcement officials that might assist?
We checked the bulletin board for notes indicating where they would go. We called the phone numbers of any numbers that were listed on the bulletin board. We checked with their son and any friends and relatives to whom they might have given indication as to where they were going. The luggage is in the house. Their good clothing is in the house so that they didn't intend a trip. There was washing in the machine, which indicated that they intended to return soon. The toothbrushes are in the house. Ken's razor is in the house. Obviously, from the condition of the house, they left it as they used it Sunday morning, intending to be back within a few hours.
Mr. Womack, you live across the street and up about 3 houses from the Kent Martin family.
That's correct.
Now, I understand on the afternoon of December 7th, the day they were missing, you were out washing your car.
That's right.
And you could observe their driveway.
That's right.
What happened that afternoon?
Well, I was out washing my car about 1 o'clock, and along about, I'd say about 1:30 or so, I observed that their car was in the driveway. And then when I finished washing the car, the car was not there anymore.
What events transpired regarding the youngsters, your youngsters and their youngsters, understand?
Well, I had to go to the store to get some car wash, and when we returned, my daughter Joyce hollered at Jenna. And at that time, Jenna and Sue were out gathering some friends to come home, and they were about ready to leave to make the trip.
Before they made the trip, they removed the back seat of the station wagon. Is that not right?
That's my understanding.
Why would they do that, Mr. Womack?
So I understand that they took it out so they could put some greens and possibly a Christmas tree if they were going to get one.
So that would be a further indication that that was the purpose of their trip.
That's right.
Your girls played with the Martin children a lot.
Very often, In fact, they're campfire girls.
They were very active in campfire girls.
That's right. The meeting was held at our house, and Jenna particularly was over there all the time.
There's also a possibility that your daughter might have accompanied them on this trip, is that
Could have. I mean, she's made many trips with the Martins, and this could be one of them.
Why didn't she go this time?
Well, she was ill. And, of course, that's the reason that she didn't receive an invitation.
Dean, as near as you can tell, what time was it on the 7th that the Martins were here for gasoline?
According to one of our local customers that stopped in at approximately 1 o'clock, or he said it was 1 o'clock, they were in 7 credit card sales afterwards, which could have been anywhere from 3 to 5 o'clock.
While they were here, I understand that the Mrs. Martin, one of the daughters, used the restroom.
Yes, they had difficulty getting in and out of the car because he had parked so close to the pump. That's the reason I could remember.
Mm-hmm. Any other particular incident happened while they were here? Would give them any indication of all of what their plans were?
No, none whatsoever. But it's awful hard to remember.
Mm-hmm. Do you recall what direction they traveled when they left the station?
No, I don't. The car was facing east while it was in the station. Well, I remember she had a dark coat on. It seems as though he had rubbers on and was clothed for the outdoors.
How about the girls?
I don't really remember.
In servicing the car, as you would normally do, washing windows and so forth, you notice if they had any greens or anything in the back of the station wagon?
I never noticed. The time of year, there were a lot of people hauling greens and whatnot, Christmas decorations of different kinds, and you just would not pay any particular attention to any one particular car.
Mrs. Goddard, how long have you known the Ken Martin family?
About a dozen years since we moved in this part of town.
During your time of knowing the Martins, how did you know them and through what activities?
Barbara and I belonged to a church group together and ran into each other there and at school functions, and we also belonged to a group of gals who are interested in entering contests.
I understand that Mrs. Martin was quite successful in that degree.
She worked at it and enjoyed it a great deal, and she was successful very often.
In your association with the Martin family, especially with Mrs. Martin, working closely on contests, and undoubtedly you talked lady between lady, was there any indication of any marital difficulty between the Martin family?
Oh, no. I think they seem to be very close and happy, and she certainly, I think, seemed to be going out of her way to put her family first in her activities and her thoughts, and they seem to be very close.
In the neighborhood, how were the Martins thought of?
Well, in a large town, I wouldn't say we were exactly part of their neighborhood, although we're only a couple of blocks away, but among all her friends and group friends that I know of, I would say they were very highly thought of as a very fine family who did their part in all things very actively and interestedly.
Wasn't one of the activities of Mr. Martin about the Christmas time of year, didn't he take a part of the Santa Claus?
I understand he did, and I know he, I believe he had in church activities at some times in the past also played Santa.
Walton, working on the Martin case as you have and doing much of the legwork, what have you found in regard to Mr. Martin's financial record?
Well, we checked with his bank, and his financial situation is very good. He had money in the bank, well over $1,000 in his checking account, and there's been no recent withdrawals. That was what we were checking on mostly, any recent withdrawals. The last checks that came in on that account were on the 25th of November to the Seaboard Market. There has been no other checks come into our knowledge. They were notified us if they had it.
You appear then to be in no financial difficulty.
Apparently not. No doubt.
Mr. Eccles, what kind of an employee was Ken Martin?
Well, Ken was just a very valuable man in our organization. He had a wealth of knowledge of appliances and electrical circuits and the materials that we used, where to get them, and so forth. And just a wonderful man to have as an employee.
The people here felt that he was the kind of man you'd like to work with. There's nothing about his character that would indicate any sort of despondency or anything of that nature.
No, I should say not. Always very pleasant, and everybody in the office was very fond of him.
Is there any truth to the rumor that he was about to be let go from your employ?
No, I've heard that before, and it's absolutely false, ridiculous. In fact, we if we hadn't actually lost him, I don't know what I'd do without him. I mean, we would never entertained any thoughts like that.
You mentioned that the Ken Martin family used, especially Ken, exercised a great deal of care. Did they use safety belts in their car when they traveled?
I understand they did, that they just religiously fastened the safety belts, everyone in the car. And I have every reason to believe that they had them all fastened when they were on this trip.
Everybody here knows this case right from the start. However, to start in, I would like to recap just a little bit. On December the 7th, the Martin family left Portland to pick up some greenery for their Christmas. The last known place now that we know was Cascade Locks, where they bought 5 gallons of gas. Presumably they were heading east towards the Mosier, Rowena area. Of course, we haven't the slightest idea if that was whether they changed their mind or where they ended up before anything perhaps that did happen to them. When this search started, the reports came in that they were seen up around the Larch Mountain area. Most of the effort at the start was placed in there. Then it moved from there to Rowena, then back over into Clackamas County and parts of Hood River County. There's still nothing has come up, placing them where that they actually did reach the forest. When I first started, everybody thought, and perhaps that they still do, that they are in the forest, and they may still be there. There's one thing sure, we don't know where they're at, but we know of a heck of a lot of places where they are not. Everybody, all police agencies, an enormous amount of people have looked in all of the logical places. They are not in the logical places. The next best thing then to do is to try to look into the illogical places. Where could they be? What could have happened to them? Let's look at the car. A 1954 Ford station wagon, operated by the same owner since 1954, a man who takes pride in his automobile, takes good care of it, and expects that automobile to last for approximately 10 years. What kind of a driver was he? The fact that his automobile is to last 10 years, we can assume that he is a good driver. His relatives and his friends tell us that he does not drive with excessive speed. He is very careful. He will not take his car off of the main highways. He will not take him off at least of a graveled road. This man is well equipped to take care of himself out in the woods. There is another thought as to what he could have done, or the reason he bought 5 gallons of gas at Cascade Locks. It being 40 miles from Portland is a nice rest stop. We do know that Mrs. Martin and one of the girls used the restrooms there. He could have possibly bought that gas as an excuse for the use of the restrooms. It is possible that he had made his trip and was also on the way back to Portland. As I stated at the start, we have looked at all the logical places. All of the roads have been run out, have been searched by car, on foot, and by plane. He certainly isn't there. His driving habits would not indicate that he was a reckless type of a person who would carelessly, negligently run over the bank in turning around or some other places. His driving is usually very prudent. That leaves one particular phase that maybe that we have or have not checked out. And I offer these as suggestions only. Perhaps that you're way ahead of me and have already have these things covered. And that is a question of accident, not by himself particularly, but by people who have rear-ended him, or an accident ahead of him, and what has happened. Remember, we were saying that there are no signs of accident along the highway. But remember this, that on the start of this search, our efforts were mainly aimed into the forest. By the time that we all realized perhaps that something more had taken place, perhaps the evidence of an accident had been obliterated by wind, by rain, by other causes. Ard, maybe you could fill in and perhaps tell us a little bit about his mental condition and his family life, and if there's anybody here that has checked on their last purchase before Cascade Locks, and how much gas they bought, and perhaps any of the running around that had been done.
Well, we do know that he bought gasoline from time to time at 60th and Gleason Street at the Shell station on a cash basis. He had credit cards from two companies, Tidewater Associated and Standard Oil Company. His bills at Standard Oil Company were running around $1.82 to $1.83 a month. And one at Tidewater Associated around $28, $29 to $30, which indicated he bought more flying A gas than he did the other. The man at the Shell station out there couldn't tell us when he got gas there the last time. He's in and out from time to time, apparently a friend, a neighborhood man there. Going into his background on his mental stability, from every angle we can find out, he was connected with PGE for a good many years. At the time the Portland General Electric Company discontinued their service, or their sales and service of appliances such as ranges and toasters and waffle irons and that stuff, was a gentleman from the PGE company who was a personal friend of his that set up the Home Electric Company. And at that time, Mr. Martin bought 5 shares of it, valued at $100 a share, which he later sold back to the man that originally started it, who was on a leave from the Portland General Electric and is now back with them. At the time that the Home Electric Company was bought out by the Eccles Electric Company, the other 2 men that were there, I think had a share or 2 of stock in it, pulled away and went on their own, went to work for somebody else. And Martin went to work for Eccles. And in talking to Mr. Eccles, as far as we know, perfectly substantial. There's nothing wrong with him mentally or physically. Didn't seem to have any worries. He has a substantial savings account, a substantial checking account. The last check that he drew was at the Seba Market for groceries out there. What amount was that in, Howard?
Last one was $16.
$16 for groceries at the Seba Market. That was prior to December the 7th. There's been no checks come back into the bank since, and the only gasoline credit card that has showed up for gas purchase was the one from Standard Oil Company. And we have checked with Tidewater Associated, but they haven't come up with anything yet. They're in Los Angeles where those tickets go, and it might be 6 weeks before they get in there. So, in talking to close friends of his, mentally very stable, and very methodical and very meticulous all the way around, and quite prominent in school activities, lodge activities, and his business activity, and was very satisfied and happy where he was. That's the best we can tell you on his background. There's no, as near as we can find out, there's no despondency there at all. We did have a report that some 25 years ago there was an attempt to commit suicide. We checked that out with close friends of his that have known him over a longer period of time than that, and they said it made them sick of their stomach to even hear about it because it never happened, that he wasn't that type of fellow. That's about as much as I can tell you in his personal background in there.
Agencies from 9 counties in 2 states, and with the help of hundreds of volunteers, the search has led back to the same question asked that first day. You've met the Martins' relatives and friends who knew them well, the lawmen who were directing the search. Some of your doubts have been answered and some new questions raised. And the new questions are just like the old one. Where are the Martins?